Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 7, lucky number 7 of the Inside Events podcast by Swapcard, event app and matchmaking powered by AI. It's the smartest event management platform. And our first guest today will share with us why our show today is on using AI to personalize events. And we have with us Vincent Kurta from Swapcard. Hi, Vincent.
Hello, how are you?
Good. So our topic is AI. For those listening who don't know, artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence applies machine learning, deep learning, and other techniques to solve actual problems. And you can find our show on Twitter at the Event Profs. If you want to look back to any previous episodes, links are there. And if you want to give us any feedback or any of that good stuff, that is the place to go. I'm going to give Vincent's bio here. He is the lead data scientist at Swapcard with the company for 2.5 years now. He graduated with a bachelor in modern, mostly French literature. I got my bachelor's in English, so here we are. Before studying computer science in college and going to Epitech for engineering. He also has a master's degree in computational intelligence from the University of Kent in Canterbury. He started working for Swapcard immediately after that and is currently in charge of all things data machine learning at Swapcard, mainly recommender systems and BI. BI is business intelligence, right?
Yes.
Just, you never know.
Yeah.
The acronym, alphabet soup. I think we take things for granted sometimes, and then you just never know what people know and don't. Especially because I think our listeners of this show they're of a wide variety of backgrounds and the jobs that they do. So, and I hate also to, there can be a fear of tech sometimes, and so I like to make things as easy to understand as possible. Okay, so we're going to start this show today talking some news, a little bit of tech involved. And the first thing is, I thought really it was interesting that Marriott is taking on Airbnb. Not completely taking on, because they've only got like 5,000 properties that they're offering, but they have a new homes and villas program. And I thought it was really interesting. I found the article on CNN. I always cruise through all of our event industry programs or websites and everything that's going on. And this was a CNN article, which I thought was really interesting. And the reason I kind of, obviously it's event related, but like I know myself, I have booked Airbnb instead of a show's offering for housing, because it's easier to share, it's less expensive. So, and the CEO said, this is part of the whole sharing economy, bikes and scooters and homes. So, you know, so basically the article is that, talks about how Airbnb has served to disrupt the housing industry and in general, but also within our industry. So this is a way for Marriott to try to compete with that, or is it? I mean, do you think big brand hotels can compete with this tech, or is it smart for them to head down that path?
I
What
think
do you
it's
think?
pretty smart if they can get their hands on the properties that are interesting to their customer base. Yeah, I think it's pretty smart. In terms of tech, um, I think it's not that hard a task to handle for them, especially if they can hire like a good. I'm not sure that Marriott has a developers team working on this, right? I'd probably hire some contractor,
Right.
and if they have a good contractor, yeah, the learning or the algorithm behind this type of work is, I think, not the hardest for them. But this will definitely like be a market share that they can go into, especially since Airbnbs, you don't always get like high-end homes when you book them. You can get
Right.
really nice places or you can get cheaper places. Marriott's, they have their own brand. It's really high-end. So yeah, I think it's not it's a really smart move from them, I believe.
Yeah, I do too. And they're vetting every property. Unlike Airbnb doesn't vet. I mean, if you put it up, you put it up. Yeah, there's two-way reviews, and in that way, Airbnb is less of a risk than like using a Booking.com or something like that. But this is they need these properties, these villas, these homes, a castle, in Scotland to be on brand. Um, the thing that struck me the most too was that you her kind of hook was, oh well, you can use your points. So yes, we think that she doesn't think this is going to affect their main business at all. She thinks this is going to be a supplement to and to what they're doing, because actually some of the places where they have these villas and stuff are where they don't already have hotels, so that gives them an entrance into that market. And really she's saying, you're doing all this travel for work and staying in all our properties, why not use your points on your vacation to stay in a
And
castle in Scotland?
yeah, I believe like they said, I read the article and they said about 30% of their customers also booked an Airbnb sometime in 2018. So that would mean that for them, it's a huge, like it's 30% of the customers could have gone to their own house and villas instead of Airbnbs. So if they start offering this, they're not losing any, they're not losing any uh, more, business. They're just
Right,
getting more. There's no. I mean, there are obviously operational costs, but
right.
there's not a huge amount of losses. I think they're going to take to there.
Yeah, I think maybe for like famous people and that kind of stuff, like this would be um a route they might prefer versus Airbnb or VRBO, because you don't really know what you're getting until you get there. um I mean, pictures can be close, but not always. All right, so I think that's a pretty cool disruption, and I personally love that the CEO of Marriott's a woman. that for me was part of the article. I was like, I love this. This is amazing. Okay, so the next article I wanted to talk about is 5G, what planners need to know to be ready. This was a MeetingsNet article that they posted. It was basically a recap of a session from PCMA, where Will Curran and Brandt Krueger presented on 5G. This is a big tech thing, I think, that's really going to affect events and how the quality of not just streaming and that kind of thing that happens at conferences now, um, but will help, I think, have a better experience for our attendees when in using apps. So, but it's there, but not quite there yet. So, I'm going to read a quote, and then we'll chat about this. The emerging 5G cellular standard will significantly change how content is delivered and consumed at conferences, but planners must address technical and logistical considerations to optimize the ocean of bandwidth that will soon be at their disposal. Oh, I'm curious because I think it's probably different in Europe than in the US. Vincent, what do you have 5G there yet? And
um,
kind of what's the
I think in larger cities, yes, larger cities
okay.
in Paris, there will be. I think 5G is already deploying, and they're starting to get a lot of ads everywhere for the new services, but it's not quite there yet either. I mean, in my town, I'm not in Paris. In my town, there's no 5G yet for sure. And anyway, most of the devices are not compatible.
Right. So that's the one thing, right? The devices that people have in their hands have to be compatible, but also they're building new towers, right? So it's not like they're not just piggybacking like 4G piggybacked on 3G, but I think this is a totally different ball game, right? It's a totally different level of tech.
Yeah, I believe it's there's a few differences. I'm not too aware of the tech behind it, but
Okay.
yeah, I think there's a lot of differences between 4G and 5G, and not only the speeds, but yeah, the bandwidth as well is going to be much
Right.
larger.
Brandt actually said the carriers do not all work in the same frequencies for their 5G delivery either, which makes a difference in how well each carrier signal travels across distances and through walls. The key thing to remember is that you trade range for speed, that's a factor in a convention space, right? In a conference center where, you might have a different experience in one room than in another, or maybe between the keynote and the breakouts and that kind of thing. But I think it will become a point where you don't have a choice, really, right? I mean, if the venue is using 5G, or is that not a factor?
I mean, yeah, I think so. The big advantage of 5G is currently when you go to an event, it's either 4G, which is really swamped by all the people using it, or it's Wi-Fi, which has exactly the same problem. Usually, there's like only so many connections that a broadband can support, even for huge events, and I mean huge venues. And yeah, 5G should hopefully address both of these problems. But the issue with the issue with these types of technologies, right, is that we're always going to use them to the maximum as soon as we can, like as much as we can, right? As the 5G technology was going to be um, more common, and everyone's going to start having devices that can do 5G, people are going to go on the internet and download content that's heavier because they have access to this extra speed. And so everyone will start doing this, and we might start getting the same effects as 4G, the effects we have currently with 4G, which is, well, since everyone is using as much as they can, we get a slowdown for everyone.
Right. Yeah, especially with streaming and live, that live broadcast. I attend a big social media conference here in San Diego each year, and it is forbidden to live stream for several reasons, but mostly because you can imagine 4,000 social media marketers all in one place, right? Like this, it's such a heavy hit on all the data and the Wi-Fi, where it's like, yeah, add live streaming to that, and it's like, we could really take the whole system down. So that brings to mind, this 5G Wi-Fi and data are different, right? Will the 5G
Yes.
affect the Wi-Fi side or not?
I mean, maybe it's hard to
Okay.
say. The thing is, I think Wi-Fi is, or basically Wi-Fi and 5G. 5G is not that different. It's still both electromagnetic waves, right? But Wi-Fi is using a broadband connection, so it's connecting to your modem that's in your house, in the venue you're at. And then 5G is connecting to, is the modem is in your phone, and then it will connect to the towers directly. Right? So this is the difference.
Gotcha.
Now,
Okay.
um, they eventually suffer from the same problems, as in there's only so many connections you can.
Right. All right. So, and then there's a endless events made a bandwidth count calculator, which I think is pretty cool. So, and I'll include a link to that in the show notes. And then there's a couple sub articles to this if anybody wants to know more. There's a New York Times article, I think, which is really informative. And then Trade Show Internet is a company in our industry that provides an alternative to internet versus using in-house. And they put out an article in the fall about the advent of 5G and what it means for events. So I'll include links to both of those. All right, so that's it for news for today. It's been kind of news light after the holidays and everything in the new year. Our topic today is using AI to personalize events. And our guest today is Stephan Forseille. He's head of technology and digital transformation with EasyFairs. And here we are with our very special guest today, Stephan Forseille. Hello, Stephan. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thanks for
Hello,
joining
everyone.
us. Thanks so much for joining us. So I do want to say AI obviously allows for personalization. So if you would like to find out more about event personalization with your data, you can download Swapcard's free ebook, The 2020 Guide to Event Personalization. You'll find that link in our show notes for the episode. Okay, Stephan, I'm going to give your bio here, your glowing. It's not too long. Stephan is head of technology and digital transformation with EasyFairs. He is excited by everything digital and by how tomorrow will be better because of tech and science. While he spent 10 years in the telecom and internet industry, he has spent the last 15 years in the exhibitions industry. Stephan enjoys helping organizations rise to the next level by using technology as a stepping stone. He specializes in change management, digital strategy, IT strategy, and team development. He loves sharing his passion for digital. If you need someone to speak on digital transformation, innovation, and customer centricity, he is your man. I love that term, customer centricity. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that we live in an era where everything is centered around what we want. And especially if we look at the exhibition industry, we very far from the level of customer centricity that industries like retail manage to offer. This is why I'm so passionate about bringing more customer centricity and more thinking about, I call it thinking inside out instead of outside in. We're still thinking outside in what do we want to achieve as organizations, not what our attendees want to achieve when they participate to our events.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I've been actually talking a lot and thinking a lot about customer experience as of late, and that. So I just love that. Okay, so I would love to start with you telling us about EasyFairs. Your tagline, fantastic. A journey into the future of events. #visit the future. Tell us about EasyFairs and what you all are up to.
So yeah, EasyFairs is not a very old company. We created the company 15 years ago. And the goal of EasyFairs is to show people a vision of their future. So both in terms of experience and in terms of content, we always try to show people what the future will look like, because we think that one of the main reasons why you visit trade shows and events is to see what's coming up, is to be ahead of the game. And we know that things are always moving faster than we expect. People tend to say that, well, I think it was even Bill Gates saying that we tend to overestimate the change that's coming in the next 12 months, but we always underestimate the change that's coming in the next 10 years. That's a little bit the goal of Visit the Future.
Love that. Fantastic. All right. So let's just start out. So that, I mean, the name of the show is using AI to personalize events. So can you tell our listeners and viewers how EasyFairs is using AI?
Well, we use AI in different ways, and we have a lot of projects also going on with that. One of the things we're doing, for example, is using AI to try to predict if people are going to visit the show or not. It's what we call the no-show prediction, because you know that, especially in B2B, not everyone who registers to the show will actually visit the show. So this is one example of the things we are doing with AI. So we have a pretty good rate of predicting if people are actually going to come to the show. And when we see that they're not going to come to the show, we try to offer them different things or put them on a different journey, or try to see why they will not come to the show. So another advantage of AI is that whenever you make predictions using AI, or you try to measure something, you can find out why. What are the main things that influence the decision of people? So this is an example of using AI to try to make people's life better, and while at the same time increasing the conversion towards our event.
Fantastic. So Vincent, you're a data scientist. How are you and Swapcard using data to personalize events?
The way we do this is, first off, we try to gather as much data as possible about attendees, and this is typically done through ticketing systems. So you go to your ticketing systems, you ask questions to your attendees about what they're going to do at the event, what they want to see, and their skills and their keywords, kind of. And then you use all this data in we have different systems that we can use right now. We build what we call recommender systems. So the goal of this is to try to predict where people want to go, which conference they want to attend, who they want to meet, which product they're going to be most interested in, this type of items, and then to tailor the app for the attendees, per attendee.
Okay, so it's not, just for clarification for I think everyone listening and for myself, they don't have to have registered for the particular event that you're using your app for. You have data from prior events that they've attended?
Yeah.
Or how does
Yes,
that,
we have
okay.
basically any event that has been attended through Swapcard, because
Okay.
Swapcard has obviously a lot of apps, white label apps that are out there. So any event that's been attended through a Swapcard app will be taken into account when someone visits a new event. However, if they're a new attendee and have never used the app, then we will try to match them with whatever group of people we think they're closest to, and then use this type of data to infer what they want.
Gotcha.
But then we obviously change these predictions as they use the app and they visit the event.
Okay. So, and then that relates to the matchmaking piece, right?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Matchmaking is what we call our recommender system. So basically, matchmaking is going to be user-to-user recommendation. So instead of recommending any type of item, the matchmaking is focused on recommending other users that are at the event. So if you're, I don't know, an investor looking to invest, then we're going to recommend you startups, startup founders, typically.
Gotcha. I think that's really important. I know as someone who has exhibited many times with my clients and been an attendee, as you know, sometimes as a buyer, but not always. I think that helping me figure out who I should meet and what companies are a match for what I'm looking for is pretty valuable, because I do spend a lot of time. Most recently, in the last year, I planned trade show participation for two of my clients, or actually for one client, for two different shows, and I spent a lot of time mining the app myself for who I thought would be a good fit. And so I think I'm just curious why, Stephan, what do you think about why more companies aren't doing this kind of thing? Why they're not using AI and this kind of technology to their advantage?
Well, I do discuss with a lot of other CTOs and CIOs of trade show organizers, because beside my work for EasyFairs, I also do quite a lot of presentation and conferences, etc. And I would say the main problem that we as trade show organizers have, the main hurdle for us to be able to effectively use AI, is that a lot of the data in our organization is still in silos. It's very difficult to concentrate all of the necessary data. And if you look at something like matchmaking, what Vincent was explaining, imagine if you can do the matchmaking like Swapcard does, which is for me already a huge step forward, but you can also include a lot of other data. For example, not just the data coming from the registration, but also what people have done on your website in the time coming up to the show. What they've done the previous years in terms of location-based data that you have been able to collect during the show. Then you can enrich everything, but it's still very difficult for organizers to put all of this data together in a meaningful way. I would say that that's the main problem at the moment.
Okay. And does GDPR have anything to do with that, or no? Because the data that they've already entered, they've already given permission.
Well, not really. It's not I don't think it's a big problem because a lot of the data you work with it in an anonymous way. The biggest part of the work when you do AI, and Vincent can explain that probably much better than me, is actually training your algorithms. Your machine learning system, they have to be trained with a lot of data, and then you have to take all of the data from your previous events, etc. But you can do it in a completely anonymous way. So GDPR is not really a problem. It's more of a technical problem of getting all of this data in a data lake together.
Okay.
If I can.
Yeah,
I
go ahead,
agree.
please.
And I was gonna say, like in our databases, for example, like all the what we call the matching databases or the machine learning databases that we have absolutely no way of identifying anyone or any data that we have there except for numbers. So it's just like, oh, you're user 1, user 2, user 3, but we don't know who is who, and we cannot even, I mean, we could maybe probably guess, but it would be a really hard task and really not worth our time anyway.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. That's good to know. Because I think that's important for people to hear when because I think we've sort of let go a little bit of the, assumption that I don't know. I just have given up my private whatever, like everything. I just feel like anything I enter on the internet is fair game. And I'm fine with that, but not everybody is. So,
yeah, I think in terms of giving away data and GDPR, if you provide a real value to the customers, they're okay to give the data if they understand what you do with them, and if they understand the value they get out of it. And you have to be very open and very respectful of the data of your customers. It's not really a problem. We don't have a lot of people saying, for example, right to be forgotten and completely erased. We have very few requests for that. And I think if you treat people's privacy in a good way, you will not have problems with that. Of course, you have to respect the law, and the law is very strict about it. But we see that it's much less of a problem in terms of not giving us the capacity to do what we want with the data than we expected it would be.
That's a great point. I like that. Okay, so I have a question for both of you, and I'll start with Vincent. And these questions are always hard. I'm not asking you to be the oracle or anything, but what do you think is the future of AI? Like, have we just scratched the surface of its capabilities?
So yes, I think that we're not very far along the AI research. But then again, the AI research started quite a long way back, and it was in a terrible drought during the 90s, for example. So even though we're not really we're really far from having seen everything, I don't think, I don't think I think it's gonna take a while at least before we start seeing anything more than what we have now, which is just mostly prediction machines and statistical inference most of the time. Okay. So I'm gonna say yes, but we're not close to the end at all, for sure.
And so is there anything that you have thought about that you would like to be able to do?
Yes, train with it or do myself. So with AI, there's lots of things that we would like to do. Basically, things that go from relatively simple, provided we have the data. So something like planning the journey of an attendee in an event, that would be something really useful. And then obviously you can change what you want and like say, oh no, I don't really want to go to this conference. But the planning most of your day ahead of time would be great. And I think it's with the right amount of data we could do it. But what I would like personally to do is to have models that train machine learning models. So technology behind the AI training really fast on much less data, because then we would be able to do this type of prediction in a much faster way and with the attendees not using the app as much. Yeah, that would be awesome.
So like if you would be able to potentially tell me what sessions to go to based on what you think I want to learn about. Is that one of the, am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, but
Okay.
we would already like to do this. I think we could do it if we had the data. But what I'm saying is like, I would like for this to be really fast. So if I have a new person in the app, then after, I don't know, they use the app for an hour, I can already say, oh, okay, then what you're really interested in is this. And then I can just simply, I don't have to learn a lot of things from the data. I don't have to have as much data to learn about what people want. That would
Okay.
be
All right. Awesome. What do you think, Stephan? Have we just scratched the surface? What's the future? What say
Yes.
you?
Yeah, 3 points. The first one is that indeed, I totally agree with what Vincent said. Problem is not the algorithms themselves; it's getting the data in a useful way. That's super hard. Second point is that yes, true as well. What Vincent just said. Artificial intelligence is here since a long time. I'm not that young anymore, and I used to play with neural networks when I was at university in the early 90s. It was already existing. It was just that we didn't have the horsepower on computers to run it at the time, and we didn't have the data available. The third thing is that I see so many cool projects using artificial intelligence. I was speaking about what we do. We have obviously incredible matchmaking applications coming up, things that would be like recommendation engines when you come to the show, or maybe you should choose these people, optimizing the return on investment. Like, okay, you saw these people on the show, but maybe you have missed those one, a little bit like Amazon or Netflix are doing. And then you have application that would make people's life much easier and our staff life much easier. If you look at what Freeman is doing, for example, they've modified Amazon Alexa to serve as either online chatbots or even on-site. You can talk to an assistant, a virtual assistant on-site, and ask them information about the show. That's already existing. That's already products that you can see on shows. So I see so many applications, and I think in the next 5 to 10 years, AI will permeate every aspect of the technology we use at the trade shows.
That's awesome. Giving some job security to people like Vincent, right?
Yes.
The
I feel
data
confident about
scientist.
that.
No question. Yeah.
When we, sorry to interrupt you, but when we're
No,
speaking
please.
about what are the main problems
Yeah.
for trade show organizers in deploying AI, I said, yeah, getting the data together, but actually getting people like Vincent is in our team is super hard as well, because there's really a war for talent for these data scientists and data engineers at the moment.
Well, and I'm a huge fan of what comes out of what you guys do, but there's no way I could personally be the, I'm a word nerd. So
Yeah, it's a very specific
yeah.
area of training, and we find it quite hard to make people transition for other areas of technology to data science. It's more of a well, Vincent, you can correct me, but I think it's more about mathematics than actual computers.
Yes, there's a. Well, the thing is, if you're like when I got on Swapcard, so I was out of the university basically. It was the it's my first job, and a lot of the university stuff that we do is math when you do data science, because there's a lot of not extremely complex math, but there's a lot of math involved in building these algorithms and understanding them. But then when you get into a company and you're the only person who's working on this type of project, you also have to do all the engineering side as well. So you have to design the architecture of the system. You have to build the databases, unless you're using obviously the how do you say keen hand systems from Amazon or Google. But even then, you still have to do a lot of pipelining and this type of thing that are really hard to do. And I think getting someone who can do both currently is really difficult.
Yeah, it's very hard.
Well, and kind of along the maybe similar lines, maybe not. I think with chatbots and that technology is there's the tech and then there's the human side, right? Somebody has to actually write the words in a way that people are going to be asking the questions or write the responses to that. But that, I mean, chatbots are they AI or are they?
Depends on
Yeah.
the chatbot.
Okay.
Yes,
All right. That's fair.
them are.
All right. I don't want to open up a can of worms.
No, you have
as
a
you
lot
say.
of, especially online chatbots where you're typing things that are not AI at all. They are just trying to guess in a not very intelligent way what you want. But
Okay.
if you look at things like Google Home or Amazon Alexa, they really use AI, and there's no way that someone has typed in all the way that you can ask a question to these chatbots. Then just by association and by training, those chatbots and things like Siri and Alexa, they're already much better than humans at understanding human speech. And when Freeman places these Alexas on trade shows, it's very noisy environments, and there's a lot of things going around, and even then, they have no problem picking up what people want and to give really meaningful information most of the time. So yes, there are chatbots that actually really use AI and works very well.
Yes, and I was going to add, there's been a lot of recent developments in the text to understanding and generation of text from, I think it's GPT-2. Is it from Google? I don't remember, but some research teams, at least from a large company, did a really interesting release. Oh no, it was OpenAI. It was OpenAI, and it's basically a system that will continue a story. So you type some words in, and then the system will generate some text that matches your whatever you typed. And this type of text generation can be extremely powerful for chatbots in the future. I think it's probably going to see some application quite soon, or already is. But the text to understanding the text, now I think we have it 90% down, and now the generation of answers is going to be going that way quite soon as well, I think.
Yes. If you look at companies like Conversica, for example, they're providing AI-powered sales assistants to you. And so they engage in a discussion with your customers over email, and they really adapt to the answers they get, and you have different variation of and it's really incredible because it's very hard to guess that you are talking to an AI.
Huh. But you have to let people know, though, right? I mean, I think that's kind of important.
Well, I was discussing with I visited Conversica some time ago, and they were explaining me that some of their customers, they actually receive flowers for the salesperson.
Hilarious. The bot.
The role of the bot in that case is to make the first contact with the customer and try to get the real salesperson an appointment. So it exchanges email and it tries to find a slot, etc., etc. And some of the customers had such a good experience in discussing with that person that they sent flower for her.
Oh my gosh, I love it. That's amazing. Okay, so I think, and we've talked about this on this show a few times about how helping planners understand technology can be kind of a hurdle. So do you have, either of you or both, have any storytelling, helping, have you have any real examples of how you have made their job easier, or do you have a method for getting this across? Like, do you use storytelling and case studies and that kind of thing to really share with potential customers what the how it'll make their show better?
Should I start?
What's that?
I can start if
Yeah,
you want.
please do.
Yeah, there's a lot of explaining to make, and a lot of yeah. I spend a lot of my time talking about technology. I think, more of my time talking about it than actually doing it, because you have to take everyone along, and it won't work if you have somebody in the marketing team or somebody in the sales team who is not with you on the project, And if you say we're going to start this and this and this in technology, not just AI, but every technology, and it takes a lot of energy sometimes, but most people are really keen to try new things. And I've never, at least in our company, I've never felt any resistance to technology and say, I don't really like that. I don't think people will like to talk to a chatbot. I don't think they will like to whatever. It's not difficult, but you have to give a good story.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I find that a little bit surprising, but it's amazing. You guys are obviously doing a wonderful job. I used to sell audiovisual technology, and I know planners have a real resistance to, they know it's important. They know that it's like the second highest ticket item on their budget, next to like food and beverage. But they can kind of be resistant to making change. So if you're newer in the industry, or if you don't know if you're not Freeman or PSAV, it can be hard to get people to make a change. And so, but I mean, in this app world that we're living in, it's still very young, right? Like, I think we've passed the point where people wonder whether they need an app for their event or not. I've just barely passed that point. Maybe Stephan, you don't think we are?
Well, we've stopped making app on a systematic basis for event in 2016. So I would say that about maybe 5 to 10% of our events actually have an app now.
Oh, really? Huh. Interesting.
We have about 200 events a year, and maybe 10 to 15 have an app.
Yeah, but some organizers are moving quite fast to get an app everywhere. For us, so for example, there was I don't know if I can talk about this one.
I love
it. You can say beep instead of the name.
I'll look, because I know it's in. I know maybe I saw it in the blog of Swapcard.
Well,
but yeah, we had apps everywhere, and if you talk about apps, we probably will get back there at some point. And I do travel from time to time to Asia, and I'm going back to China in a month. And you have a much better uptake of apps over there, but it's because everybody uses the same apps. And if you try to get one app, we try to get one app for a show, or even one app for all of our events. We have 200 shows a year, and the uptake is too low. But if you go and then you piggyback on an app like WeChat in China, for example, it is much easier than trying to force your own app on people's phone, because all the organizers I talk to, if they do that, nobody, except really exceptions, nobody gets better than 10 to 20% adoption in their apps.
Yeah, so for us, actually, this is a really strong point, because I believe that we get more adoption simply because we actually have obviously all our apps integrate with each other. So if you use Swapcard, even if it's not branded as Swapcard, even if it's a white label, if you use Swapcard at an event and then you use another app, different app for another event, but it's also a Swapcard app as another white label, then we're gonna obviously keep all your data up to date between the events. We're gonna send we're gonna use recommendation that's based on what you did at the previous event as well. And this is really a strong selling point for us. And I believe that, for example, at GITEX, which we did end of last year, we had, I think, like above 40% use rate in a huge 100,000 people. So I think this is a really strong point for us, and I think that we could have apps for like all around events if the app is well made and it's easy to use and it has good marketing behind it as well.
On the other side, you also see other players in the market come with their own apps. For example, LinkedIn has really LinkedIn events, and it could be that I hope it's not the case, but it could be that they take over the market and people say, oh, I have LinkedIn on my phone. I don't want to install another app. I will do everything on LinkedIn events. That like it happens with WeChat in China, for example.
Yeah, I don't LinkedIn. See, here's the thing. Like, I don't, they're not there. Like, I was super excited that LinkedIn was bringing events back into the app. They're not, they're not there as far as I'm concerned. I'm working in social media and working in events. They've got a ways to go, but your point is fair. Do you think there's a difference between if it's a B2B or a B2C kind of a show?
Yes.
Because obviously if it's a B2C, I as a consumer going to a show, I'll be less likely to download something. But on the B2B side, when you're helping, especially not just the matchmaking, but the lead generation, that piece, because I know as an exhibitor, I hate having to download a second app for lead capture. Like for having everything kind of be all in one, I think is super valuable for both sides, because I mean, people don't want to be sold to, but they're there because they want to buy something, right? Or there's something that they need for their business or for their life. And so the easier we make it for them, the better. So I think, Stephan, your point is fair that maybe we went to, we had like, oh, apps for everything. And then there's been some pullback, but I do think that this personalization and the use of AI like Swapcard is doing is definitely, I think, gonna help, at least on the B2B side, to continue to
But
move
I
it
agree
forward.
with you that we have also apps are too specialized, and then you have too many apps. So I was saying that sometimes you even have one app per event, and then even in the same event, if you're an exhibitor, you would have the event app, and then you have a lead generation app. Then sometimes you have a matchmaking app, which is beside. We have to bring everything together, because the time where people would install 500 apps on their phone, it does not happen that much anymore.
Right.
Yeah, and there's another thing, like, but I think like what I mean is a big actor for this change could be, or should be, the large event organizers themselves, because when they pick one of the apps to, yeah, when they pick one of the apps for one of their events, and then they pick a different app for another one, and they have an app made for a third one.
Yeah.
I think this is not a good practice for a large event organizer. If you pick a provider and then use one app, even if it's branded differently, throughout all your events, well, you earn a lot of, well, first off, it's much easier because you only have one actor to deal with. And then the second thing is all the data, like for us, all the AI data, but even in other ways, all the data is kept in one place. It's much easier to track what everyone is doing at different events, who is going where, etc., because it's not scattered over hundreds of databases. So yeah, I think that large event organizers and event organizers in general should probably be picking one app provider and then sticking with them for a while, or for a bunch of events at least.
Yeah,
On the
definitely.
consumer side, or on the whatever, on the attendee side, I should say, because whether it's business or not, Vincent, does that mean then that I don't have to re-download if I go to the same show the second year? I don't have to re-download the new app. Will it populate with the new information?
Yeah, I
Awesome.
believe so.
Awesome.
And also, if you go to a bunch of events from that organizer, obviously all your data will still be there from event to event.
That's fabulous. Yeah, because I'm used to going to meeting an event industry, conferences and expos, and having to download a new app every year. And it can be a bit much. So I think that there's something there. Okay. All right. Well, we're getting close to time. And so I do want to ask both of you a question I like to always end with. What's the hot new tech app, gadget, program? It actually doesn't have to be new, that you're excited about these days. Is there anything that's making your job easier, or making your life easier, or more fun? Stephan, you're smiling.
Well, we were speaking about AI. Definitely, for me, that's the most exciting technology for the next 5 years. I recently wrote an article on LinkedIn, and I asked 6 or 7 other digital people in the trade show industry what they thought would be the big thing in this year. And everybody thinks it's AI. I totally agree. In terms of my personal life, I can't wait to get a really working AI assistant in my work. You know, something that could just, okay, I need to make a meeting with that person, just find a date for me and just book the plane and just arrange everything. That would be the coolest thing for me.
Right. Absolutely. What do you think, Vincent?
Uh, I don't really have an answer for that question. I mean, to me, like in the event industry, I mean, I don't go to that many events, right?
It doesn't have to be
Yeah,
event related. It could
yeah,
be
okay.
anything. It could be
Be anything.
Netflix.
Well, Netflix is not that exciting anymore, is it?
Oh, I don't know. I just got into a whole bunch of new shows. So personally, it's my kryptonite.
For me, I think a few exciting things for personal life. I think, I mean, I play a lot of games, so there would be lots of exciting new board games. Actually, I'm looking forward to, such as playing. I'm gonna play some, yeah, Blaze in the Dark. It's called. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be awesome. Other than that, technology-wise, I'm quite excited about um, AI and ecology. I think this is a great fit to save a lot of power and heat and like all the yeah, a lot of power. Energy is really not an expendable resource. So yeah, AI and ecology will be I think a great fit for the next 10 years.
I love it. Fantastic. Okay, so last thing is, how can our listeners and viewers find you, Stephan? What's the best place to?
Or you can easily find me on LinkedIn, for example.
Okay.
Search for Stephan Forseille and or EasyFairs, and you will find me.
Okay, perfect. And Vincent?
So you can find me on LinkedIn as well, Vincent Kurta, or you can contact Swapcard. I think it should be pretty easy to get me on the phone. Or
Perfect. And are you in Paris?
I'm
At
not working
headquarters?
in Paris currently.
Okay.
I work in Brittany.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you both. It's early day for me and later day for you, of course, across the pond. So thank you so much, both of you, for being with us here on episode 7. I thank everyone for listening and watching. And this has been episode 7 of Inside Events by Swapcard, and we will catch you next time.